I had exactly $18,742 left in my checking account when my brother's lawyer slid a notarized packet across the table and told me my mother's house was no longer in the family. My hand was still wrapped in post-op gauze from a surgery I'd put off too long, and I'd shown up wearing the same soft sweatshirt I'd slept in because buttons hurt. Inside the packet was a quitclaim deed I'd never seen before, and a single line that made my stomach drop. Transfer approved. Consideration, $1 hours. Tucked behind it was a plain white envelope that wasn't supposed to be there. No letterhead, no return address, just my name and a USB drive taped to the paper like an afterthought. I set it in my pocket and forced myself to breathe. I didn't know it yet, but the metadata on that drive would end with an asset freeze and a judge saying the words my family never could. Let me take you back. Charleston has a particular kind of polish that can feel like kindness until you realize it's a lid. Everything is darling and bless your heart, and the uglier truths get folded into linen napkins and placed out of sight. My mother, Marisol Cruz, loved this city in spite of it. She ran a tiny bookkeeping business out of a spare bedroom, the kind of work that kept other people's lights on while she learned to live with her own dimmer switch. Arthritis, then diabetes, then the fatigue that came with being the person everyone leaned on. My brother, Grant, leaned the hardest. Grant was 41 and carried himself like he'd been promised something at birth. The golden child story is always told as if it's about talent. In our family, it was about comfort. Grant was comfortable taking up space. I wasn't. That was my flaw, and it mattered later more than I wanted to admit. I was 38, an operations manager for a regional construction firm, good at the unglamorous things. Budgets, schedules, contracts, the quiet work that keeps buildings standing. People assumed it meant I wasn't ambitious. The truth was, I'd been ambitious since I was 9. When I first saw my mother cry over a stack of bills she didn't want us to notice. The only inheritance I ever cared about wasn't money. It was the small stucco house on Rutledge Avenue where my mother grew basil on the porch and kept every tax file in labeled binders. It was the kind of place that smelled like coffee and furniture polish and safety. Grant called it the starter home, like it was a phase she should have outgrown. My mother never said it out loud, but she'd built her entire late-life plan around keeping that house and not becoming anyone's burden. When her arthritis got worse, she did what responsible people do. She planned. She met with an estate attorney downtown, Evelyn Price, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and a voice that could turn no into a full sentence without raising it. Evelyn drafted an irrevocable trust that held the house and a modest investment account, enough to pay for in-home care if my mother needed it. Grant hated the word irrevocable. It meant he couldn't lean on it the way he leaned on everything else. The trust had 2 trustees, my mother while she was competent, and Evelyn as a successor trustee if my mother became incapacitated. My mother insisted on it. "Your brother is charming," she told me one night while we put away dishes. Charm can be a tool. I remember looking at her hands, swollen knuckles, nails neatly trimmed anyway. "Then why do you keep giving him things?" I asked. She dried a plate slowly, like time could be stretched. "Because I'm his mother," she said. "And because someone taught him love looks like rescue." She said it like she was apologizing to herself. Grant's problem wasn't that he was evil, it was that he was entitled. That's how real damage gets done. Quietly, legally, with plausible smiles. The first time I saw the pattern clearly was 3 years earlier, at a Sunday lunch my mother hosted because she still believed in rituals. Grant arrived late as usual and kissed my mother's cheek with performative tenderness. "You look tired, Ma," he said loudly, like announcing her weakness made him attentive. Then he turned to me. "Still playing foreman?" he asked. "I manage operations," I said. Calm, neutral, my default. He waved a hand. "Same thing." We sat down. Within 10 minutes, he was talking about his consulting, which was a polite word for being unemployed between ideas. I'm close on a deal, he said, spearing a piece of chicken. Just need a bridge. 10 grand. 30 days. My mother's eyes flicked to mine. That old reflex. Don't make a scene. I put my napkin down. Grant, I said evenly. You said that last time. And the time before. He smiled, and it wasn't warm. There she is, he said. The family compliance officer. My mother reached for his glass, refilling it like that was her role in the world, to keep his thirst from being his responsibility. Let's not argue, she murmured. That was the dehumanization moment for me. Not the insult, but the way my mother's peace was always bought with my silence. After lunch, when Grant stepped outside to take a call that sounded suspiciously like it didn't exist, my mother sat beside me on the couch. I know you think I'm weak, she whispered. I don't, I said quickly. She pressed a hand to my cheek, warm and trembling. I'm not weak, she said. I'm tired. And tired people make concessions they shouldn't. The second scar came the year after, at my cousin's graduation party. Grant cornered me by the kitchen island while everyone else cheered and took pictures. You know, he said, Mom trusts you because you're dependable. It sounded like praise until he added, not everyone gets to be exciting. I blinked at him. I'm not trying to be exciting, I said. That's your problem, he replied, sipping his drink. You don't understand how the world works. He leaned in, voice low. Mom's house is going to need to be sold eventually anyway. She can't keep up. Better to be proactive. It was the calm cruelty that made my skin go cold. He said it like he was discussing yard work. She's not dying, I said. Everyone is, he said, and smiled like it was clever. That night I drove home with my hands tight on the steering wheel, realizing something I hadn't wanted to admit. My brother was planning too. I didn't confront him. That was my flaw. I believed if I stayed steady and responsible, the truth would eventually reward me. It doesn't. Evidence rewards you. Process rewards you. Truth alone is just a story people argue about. Then came the surgery. It wasn't dramatic. No ambulance, no sirens. Just a slow, stubborn pain in my abdomen I'd ignored because there was always another project, another deadline, another reason to be dependable. When the doctor finally looked me in the eye and said the word urgent, my body did what it always did. It complied. The surgery went well. The recovery did not. I spent 2 weeks on my couch with a pillow pressed to my stomach, moving like every inch of air had weight. My phone lived face down on the coffee table because the light made me nauseous. On day 4, my mother called, her voice thin. Grant is being helpful, she said, and I heard the hope in it. Helpful how? I asked. He's taking me to appointments, she said. He says you need to rest. I closed my eyes. Ma, I said carefully, help is good, but don't sign anything. A pause. I wouldn't, she said. Too fast. That was the moment the clock started, even if I didn't hear it yet. The next week, I got an email from a title company I didn't recognize. It went to my spam folder and only surfaced because my phone decided to be helpful and send me a security alert. Subject line, request for document review, Rutledge Ave property. My heart thudded so hard it hurt. I clicked, half nauseous, half furious. The email contained a secure link and a sentence. Please review the attached deed transfer documents and confirm identity verification. I tried to open the link. It required a code sent to a phone number that wasn't mine. I called the title company. My voice sounded steady, which is how I cope when I'm afraid. The receptionist asked for the property address. Then she went quiet. I'm sorry, she said. Are you Mrs. Cruz? No, I said. I'm her daughter. Is there a transfer happening? I can't disclose. Then tell me this. I cut in gently, because yelling never helps. Is the transfer scheduled to record this week? A beat. Yes, she admitted, voice small. Tomorrow. I put the phone face down. My stomach tightened against my stitches. Then I called my mother. She didn't answer. I called again. Voicemail. I called Grant. He answered on the fourth ring, breathy like he'd been running. "Hey sis," he said, too casual. "What's up?" "Grant," I said, "is Mom's house being transferred?" A pause long enough to be a choice. "Oh," he said, yeah, we're just streamlining." "What does streamlining mean?" My voice stayed level, but my hand was shaking. "It means we're putting it under an LLC," he said, like that explained everything. "For liability. You wouldn't get it." "I manage contracts for a living," I said. "I get it. Who's the LLC?" "Cruz Family Holdings," he said quickly. "It's still family." "Who owns it?" I asked. Another pause. "I'm handling it," he said. "Mom asked me to. You're recovering. Don't stress." "Did she sign a deed?" I asked. He sighed like I was annoying. "She signed what she needed to sign," he said. "It's fine." The line went quiet, except for his breathing. I felt something shift in me. Not rage, not panic, but a cold focus. "Grant," I said softly, "if you recorded a deed without her informed consent, that's fraud." He laughed once, not humor, dismissal. "Here we go," he said, always with the drama. Then he said the line that still echoes in my ears because it was the moment he stopped pretending. "If you miss this, you lose everything." I blinked. "What?" I said. "You heard me," he replied. "Mom needs help. I'm stepping up. If you try to interfere, you'll just make it messy. And messy doesn't end well for people who don't have leverage." He hung up. I stared at my phone until my vision blurred. Then I called Evelyn Price. Evelyn answered on the second ring, voice crisp. "Evelyn Price," she said. "This is Elena Cruz," I replied. "My mother's trust. Something's happening with her house." Silence. Then the sound of paper shifting. "Ms. Cruz," she said slowly, "I was about to call you." My throat tightened. "What do you know?" I asked. "I received notice that a deed was presented for recording," she said. "It appears to transfer the property out of the trust." My mouth went dry. "Can they do that?" I asked. "Not lawfully," she said. "Not without my involvement as successor trustee if your mother's capacity is compromised, and not without proper execution under the trust terms." "Then how?" I started. "Because people bring documents to a title office every day," she said. "They assume what they see is legitimate unless someone flags it." She took a breath. "I need you to come to my office," she said. "Today. And Elena, bring any emails or messages you have. This may require an injunction." That was the first legal term that felt like a lifeline. "Injunction?" I repeated. "A court order stopping an action," she said. "We can ask a judge to pause the transfer while we investigate, but we need evidence, and we need it fast." My stitches pulled as I stood up too quickly. "I'll be there," I said. I hung up, looked at my reflection in the dark TV screen. Pale, hair in a messy knot, eyes wide. I wasn't ready to fight. I wasn't even fully healed. But someone had picked the wrong week to try to rewrite my mother's life. Evelyn's office smelled like old books and lemon polish. She didn't waste time on sympathy. She did what good attorneys do. She anchored reality. She laid out 2 folders on her desk. "The trust file," she said, tapping the first. "And what I received from the title company," she said, tapping the second. I reached for the second folder with my good hand. Inside was a copy of a quitclaim deed, my mother's name, my brother's name, and a notary stamp. The consideration was $1. "Quitclaim deeds are often used for informal transfers," Evelyn said, watching my face. "But they're also abused because they can look legitimate and move quickly." "Is that her signature?" I asked, voice thin. "It resembles it," she said carefully. "But resemblance isn't proof." She slid another page forward. "Here," she said, "the notary's commission number, and the notary's name." I read it twice. "I don't recognize it," I said. "Neither do I," Evelyn replied. and I have seen almost every notary in this county at least once. She opened the trust file and pulled out a page with highlighted sections. Your mother added something last year, she said. A clause I suggested and she insisted on. She pointed to the heading, Canary Clause. I frowned. What is that? Evelyn leaned back, hands folded. A canary clause is a provision that acts like a warning system, she explained. It says, if a trustee or beneficiary challenges the trust's legitimacy or attempts to circumvent its terms through deception, they risk forfeiting their interest. I swallowed. So, if Grant did this, I started. He could lose what he thinks he's securing, Evelyn finished, but only if we can prove intent and misconduct. I exhaled slowly. Evelyn slid a legal pad across the desk. We need 3 things, she said. First, an affidavit from you documenting what you know, dates, statements, the email. Second, we need to verify your mother's capacity and whether she knowingly signed anything. Third, we need to stop the recording if it hasn't happened yet. It records tomorrow, I said. Evelyn's eyes sharpened. Then we file today, she said. I hesitated because my body still wanted to avoid conflict. What if I'm wrong? I asked quietly. What if Mom really wanted this and I'm... Evelyn's voice softened just a fraction. Elena, she said, this isn't about being right. It's about making sure the system does what it's supposed to. If your brother acted properly, an injunction will be inconvenient. If he didn't, it will save your mother. I nodded once. This isn't revenge, I said, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. This is justice. Evelyn gave a small approving nod, like she'd been waiting for me to catch up to the moment. By late afternoon, we had paperwork drafted. A petition for a temporary restraining order, civil, not dramatic, preventing any transfer of the Rutledge Avenue property out of the trust until a hearing could be held. Evelyn explained each term as if she were laying bricks. Temporary restraining order, she said, is an emergency order. It's short term. It buys us time. And an injunction? I asked. An injunction is broader, she said. It can extend. But first we need the TRO. She printed my affidavit and had me read it twice. Dates, the spam email, Grant's words. If you miss this, you lose everything. Seeing it typed made it feel less like a nightmare and more like a fact pattern. Evelyn arranged for a mobile notary to come to my apartment that evening so the affidavit could be notarized properly. I almost laughed at the irony. The notary was a woman named Denise, with kind eyes, who checked my ID like it mattered. It does matter, she said, catching my expression. That's the point. When Denise left, my phone buzzed. A text from Grant. Stop. You're embarrassing, Mom. Another, you don't know what you're doing. Then, meet tomorrow. My attorney. 10 a.m. Don't bring Evelyn. I stared at the message. He thought he could isolate me. My thumb hovered. Then I typed, I'll be there. Evelyn will be there too. 3 dots appeared, then vanished. No reply. The next morning, Evelyn filed the emergency petition. Charleston County's courthouse was bright with harsh fluorescent lighting and that peculiar smell of paper and old air. We waited. The judge's clerk called us into a small hearing room around noon. It wasn't cinematic, it was administrative. That's what makes it powerful. Justice isn't usually loud. The judge listened as Evelyn summarized the concern. An attempt to transfer a trust asset without trustee approval, possible undue influence, questionable notarization. Evelyn kept it factual. No insults. No emotional narrative. Then the judge looked at me. Ms. Cruz, she said, are you seeking to stop the transfer until we can determine whether your mother knowingly authorized it? Yes, I replied. The judge nodded. I will grant a temporary restraining order pending a full hearing, she said. The property is not to be transferred or encumbered until this matter is resolved. My shoulders sagged with relief, so sudden it made my stitches ache. Outside the courthouse, Evelyn's phone rang. She listened, then her eyebrows lifted. "That was the title company," she said. "They received the order. They're halting recording." I closed my eyes for 1 second. Then I remembered my mother still hadn't answered my calls. "Now we find Mom," I said. Evelyn nodded. "And we find out what he did," she replied. That afternoon, I drove to my mother's house, moving carefully, still sore. The porch basil was wilted, like it hadn't been watered in days. I knocked. No answer. I tried the knob, locked. A car door slammed behind me. Grant. He walked up the sidewalk wearing a collared shirt and that practiced expression of concerned son. "Elena," he said, voice gentle like he was approaching a skittish animal. "You look unwell." "I'm recovering," I said. He glanced at the house. "Mom's resting," he said. "Doctor's orders." "Inside?" I asked. He smiled thinly. "She's at a friend's," he said. "Somewhere calm, she didn't want stress." My stomach dropped. "You moved her?" I asked. "She wanted to go," he said quickly. "She's tired of your paranoia." I took a breath, slow, controlled. "Grant," I said, "I have a court order stopping the deed." His expression flickered, just a flash of annoyance before he reset to charm. "Of course you do," he said, "because you always have to be the hero." I stepped closer. "Where is she?" I asked. He leaned in, voice low, smile still on. "You're not her guardian," he said. "You don't get to interrogate me." I felt my pulse in my throat. Then a neighbor's voice floated over from the next porch. "Elena," she called. "Honey, is everything okay?" Mrs. Davenport, my mother's neighbor, stood with a watering can, eyes narrowed. Grant turned, smile widening like a politician. "Hi, Mrs. Davenport," he said warmly. "Just family stuff." Mrs. Davenport didn't smile back. "I saw your mother yesterday," she said to me, ignoring Grant. She looked confused. She asked me what day it was. My throat tightened. Grant's jaw tensed. "She's fine," he said quickly. "She's older. People forget things." Mrs. Davenport's gaze sharpened. "And I saw a man come by with papers," she said. "Not Evelyn, someone else." Grant's smile flattened. "Mrs. Davenport," he said, warning creeping in. "You're mistaken." "No," she said simply. "I'm not." It was a small moment, but it mattered. A witness, an unscripted detail, a crack in his control. I looked at Grant. "Tell me where she is," I said. He exhaled sharply. "Fine," he snapped, the charm slipping. "She's at the Harborview Assisted Living for a few days. Evaluation. Because she needs it." My stomach turned. "Evaluation for what?" I asked. "For capacity," he said, eyes hard. "So I can get power of attorney and handle things properly." There it was, the plan. I didn't argue on the porch. I didn't beg. I simply nodded. "Okay," I said. Grant blinked, thrown off by the lack of emotion. "That's it?" he asked. "That's it," I replied. Then I got in my car and drove straight to Harborview with Evelyn on speakerphone. Evelyn's voice turned ice cold when she heard the word evaluation. "If he's attempting to obtain a durable power of attorney while isolating her," she said, "we need documentation. Immediately." At Harborview, the lobby looked like every expensive facility. Soft music, framed coastal paintings, the smell of sanitizer hidden under floral air freshener. The receptionist smiled professionally until Evelyn's name came through my phone. "Put the administrator on," Evelyn said. A man in a navy suit appeared 10 minutes later, expression cautious. "Ms. Cruz," he said, "your mother is here voluntarily." "Is she?" I asked quietly. "Because she hasn't answered her phone in days." He tightened his lips. "We follow protocol," he said. "Protocol includes confirming who has authority," Evelyn said sharply through my phone. "And as of now, your facility has been notified of a court order concerning her trust assets. If Mr. Cruz is using this stay to influence documents, you are now on notice." The administrator's expression shifted. Fear, not for my mother, but for liability. "I understand," he said quickly. "We'll arrange a private meeting with Mrs. Cruz." They led me to a sunlit room where my mother sat in a chair, hands folded like she was waiting for permission to exist. Her eyes lifted when she saw me, and for a second her face crumpled with relief. "Elena," she whispered, "I didn't know how to call you." I crossed the room and knelt beside her, careful not to press my stitches. "Ma," I said softly, "are you okay?" She nodded, then shook her head, confused by her own answer. "Grant said you were angry," she murmured. "He said you didn't want me to be a burden." My chest tightened. "I never said that," I replied. Her eyes filled with tears. "He kept bringing papers," she whispered. "He said they were for my safety." "Did you sign anything?" I asked gently. She stared at her hands. "I signed something at the kitchen table," she said. "He said Evelyn approved it." My stomach went cold. "I didn't see Evelyn," she added quickly, panicked. "He said she was busy." I squeezed her hand. "You didn't do anything wrong," I said. "You were tired." Her shoulders sagged like she'd been holding guilt for days. "I just wanted quiet," she whispered. Evelyn arrived an hour later, walking into Harborview like she owned the building. She sat across from my mother and spoke calmly. "Marisol," she said, "I need to ask you some direct questions. It's not to frighten you. It's to protect you." My mother nodded. Evelyn asked about dates, about who was present, about whether anyone explained the documents. When my mother described Grant saying Evelyn approved it, Evelyn's jaw tightened. "Marisol," she said, "I did not approve any deed transfer. If you were told that, you were misled." My mother covered her mouth with her hand. "Oh," she whispered, like the weight of it finally landed. Evelyn stood. "I'm going to request copies of all documents this facility has on file," she said. "And I'm going to send a notice that no power of attorney or property-related document is to be executed here without my presence." The administrator agreed so fast it was almost comical. On the drive back, Evelyn was quiet. Then she said, "There's another angle." "What?" I asked. She glanced at me. "Grant said LLC," she said. "If he tried to move the house into a company, there will be state filings." I nodded. "And if he forged," she added, "there will be a notary trail." That night, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, my stitches throbbing, and a pile of printed documents. Evelyn emailed me a link to South Carolina's business registry. I searched Cruz Family Holdings. It popped up immediately. My throat tightened as I clicked. Organizer, Grant Cruz. Address, a UPS store. Members, Grant Cruz, 100%. I stared at the screen. "Still family," he'd said. I took a screenshot and sent it to Evelyn. Her reply came quickly. "Good. That's evidence of intent." Then my phone buzzed again, a calendar invite from Grant's attorney. Settlement meeting, 10 a.m. Attached, a PDF titled Proposed Family Resolution Agreement. I opened it. It was a list of demands disguised as peace. Grant would manage the house under the LLC. My mother would remain occupant until care needs increase. I would waive objections and agree not to interfere. In exchange, I'd be allowed to visit my mother at times that didn't disrupt her routine. I set the phone down and stared at the wall. This wasn't about helping my mother. This was about controlling her. Controlling the story. Controlling the assets. Controlling me. Evelyn told me not to attend the meeting alone. "I'll be there," she said. "And I'm bringing someone else." "Who?" I asked. "A forensic document examiner," she replied. "If the signature is forged, we can establish it." Forensic. Another word that felt like a door opening. The next morning, we walked into a downtown conference room with a view of the harbor. Grant sat at the table beside a man in a gray suit who looked like he'd billed away his personality years ago. "Elena," Grant said, smile bright. "Glad you came to your senses." Evelyn sat without responding, placing her folder on the table like a weight. "This is Ms. Price," the attorney said, clearly annoyed. "You requested," Evelyn interrupted, "and I declined." Grant's smile tightened. "We're here to resolve this like adults," Grant said. Evelyn slid a page across the table. "This is the TRO," she said. "The transfer is halted." The attorney's eyes flicked over it. Grant's face flushed. "This is temporary," he snapped. "We'll fix it." Evelyn nodded calmly. "Perhaps," she said. "But first, we'll discuss why you filed an LLC listing yourself as the sole member while claiming it was for family." Grant blinked. "You looked that up?" he demanded, like evidence was unfair. "Yes," Evelyn said. "That's what lawyers do." Grant turned to his attorney, irritated. The attorney cleared his throat. "There may have been a misunderstanding," he said. Evelyn's gaze sharpened. "Misunderstanding implies accident," she said. "This looks like planning." She opened her folder and slid out another sheet. "This is a notice from Harborview," she said. "They have been instructed not to execute any power of attorney or property documents without my presence." Grant's eyes narrowed. "You went to Harborview?" he said, voice low. "Yes," I replied quietly. "I saw Mom." His smile returned, thin, dangerous. "You always have to make it dramatic," he said. I didn't respond. Evelyn turned a page. "And this," she said, "is the name of the notary on your deed." The attorney leaned forward. "I don't know what you're implying," he said stiffly. Evelyn's voice stayed calm. "I'm implying we will subpoena the notary's journal and the title company's identity verification logs," she said. "And if the signature is forged or the notarization is defective, we will pursue a claim for fraud and file a complaint with the Secretary of State." Grant scoffed. "You can't prove anything," he said. Evelyn didn't flinch. "Not yet," she said. She turned to me. "Elena," she said quietly, "tell him about the email." I described it. Spam folder, secure link, wrong phone number. Grant shrugged. "Tech stuff," he said. "Glitches happen." Evelyn nodded. "True," she said. "Which is why we brought someone." A woman stepped into the room, mid-50s, wearing a blazer and carrying a slim case. "This is Dr. Lila Hammond," Evelyn said. "Forensic document examiner." Grant's attorney stiffened. "Absolutely not," he said. Evelyn smiled faintly. "Then we'll do it through discovery," she replied. "In court, under oath." The room quieted. Grant leaned back, eyes cold. "You want to drag our mother through court?" he asked me, voice dripping with accusation. I swallowed. My flaw, the desire to avoid being the bad guy, twitched inside me. But then I pictured my mother in that sunlit room at Harborview, hands folded like she was waiting to be allowed to live. "No," I said softly. "You dragged her. I'm stopping you." Grant's nostrils flared. "Fine," he snapped. "If you want war, Elena," Evelyn cut in. "Mr. Cruz," she said, voice like steel under velvet. "We aren't here for war. We're here for compliance. Return the property to the trust, dissolve the LLC, and stop isolating your mother." Grant laughed, bitter. "And what do I get?" he demanded. Evelyn's eyes held his. "You get to avoid criminal exposure," she said simply. Grant's face hardened. He stood abruptly, chair scraping. "This meeting's over," he said. He walked out. His attorney followed, face tight, not even apologizing. We sat in the aftermath, the harbor sparkling outside like nothing had changed. I exhaled shakily. "He's not going to stop," I said. Evelyn nodded once. "No," she replied. "Which means we move faster." That afternoon, the first anonymous envelope arrived at my apartment. No return address, just my name, printed in block letters. Inside was a single folded page and a small key. The page read, "Check the USB. You're missing the second folder." My hands went cold. "The USB," I whispered. "The one taped inside the packet at the beginning." The one I'd shoved into my pocket and forgotten because everything else had been on fire. I dug it out of my drawer where I'd left it like an unfinished thought. I plugged it into my laptop. 2 folders appeared. One was labeled Docs. The other was hidden, grayed out until I clicked Show Hidden Files. Folder 2, Harper. My breath caught. Harper was the name of the title company's escrow officer listed on the email. I clicked. Inside were audio files, short clips. My throat tightened. I hit play. Grant's voice filled my kitchen, smug and close, like he was sitting across from me. Just get her to sign it. She's tired. She won't read it. Tell her Evelyn is handling it. Then another clip. Notary's fine. I paid her. She's done this before. My stomach turned. Then the last clip, quieter. Once it's recorded, Elena can't do anything. She'll panic and fold. She always folds. I sat back, heart pounding. I didn't know who recorded it or how, but I knew what it was. Evidence. And then I noticed the file properties. Creation dates, device IDs, location metadata. I wasn't an IT specialist, but I wasn't helpless with a computer either. My job had taught me to trace what mattered. The recordings weren't from a phone. They were from a digital voice recorder, one used in offices, not pockets, and the metadata pointed to a device registered to Harborview Assisted Living. I stared at the screen. A staff member had recorded him, or someone had left a recorder running when he thought he was alone. I called Evelyn immediately. She listened in silence as I played a clip over speakerphone. When it ended, she didn't speak for a moment. Then she said quietly, "The second folder changed everything." The next week moved like a legal chess game. Evelyn filed a motion for expedited discovery, subpoenas for the notary's journal, the title company's verification logs, Harborview's visitor logs, and any surveillance footage from the day my mother signed. Grant responded with aggression. He filed his own petition claiming my mother was incapacitated and accusing Evelyn of overreach. It was a classic strategy: muddy the waters, make everyone doubt, turn the responsible person into the villain. The court scheduled a hearing for 2 weeks out. Evelyn looked at me after reading the notice. "He's going to try to appoint a guardian," she said. "If he succeeds, he'll control her decisions." My chest tightened. "What do we do?" I asked. "We prove his pattern," Evelyn said, "and we protect your mother's voice." She arranged for an independent geriatric specialist to evaluate my mother, not for humiliation, but for clarity. The doctor met with my mother privately and documented what mattered. She had mild cognitive issues consistent with stress and medication changes, but she was not incompetent. She understood her assets and her wishes when not pressured. Evelyn explained it to me in plain language. "Capacity isn't all or nothing," she said. "A person can have vulnerability and still have legal agency. The question is whether someone exploited a vulnerable moment." I nodded. "And the trust?" I asked. "The trust was designed for this," Evelyn said. "Your mother built a system so her tired moments wouldn't be weaponized." Grant's escalation came a few days later. Public, calculated. Every spring, Charleston's Harbor Lights Foundation hosted a charity gala at the old Marlowe Hotel, a place where money mingled with manners. My mother's bookkeeping business had donated services for years. Evelyn sat on one of the foundation's legal advisory committees. Grant had never cared about the foundation until he realized it was a stage. He showed up to the gala with cameras, local society bloggers, a photographer, people who loved a scandal wrapped in philanthropy. I only knew because Mrs. Davenport called me. "Elena," she said, voice tight, "your brother is telling people your mother is declining and that you're contesting her wishes. He's making you look like a greedy daughter." My stomach clenched. "Where's Mom?" I asked. "She's there," Mrs. Davenport said, "and she looks small." I hung up and stood in my living room. My stitches mostly healed, but my chest tight. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to be watched. My flaw, avoidance, pressed on me like a hand. Then I pictured my mother, small, under chandeliers, while my brother narrated her life. I put on a simple black dress and drove downtown with Evelyn. When we arrived, the Marlowe's ballroom glowed with candlelight and coastal opulence. Linen, crystal, soft jazz. People turned to look, not because I was important, but because I was part of a story they'd already started telling themselves. Grant stood near the stage with a microphone, smiling like a benefactor. My mother sat at a table near the front, hands folded in her lap. She looked up when she saw me, eyes widening with relief and fear. Grant's smile tightened. He leaned toward the mic. "Tonight," he said warmly, "we celebrate community, and we also celebrate family. Some of us have had to step up recently to care for those we love." A few people nodded sympathetically. Evelyn's expression stayed neutral. She leaned in toward me. "Don't react," she murmured. "Watch." Grant continued. "My mother has given so much," he said. "And as she transitions to the next stage of life, it's important her affairs are handled with dignity." My mother's eyes darted to me. I kept my face calm, even as something hot rose in my throat. Grant looked across the room as if searching for me, then landed on me deliberately. "And sometimes," he added gently, "there are misunderstandings. People who think they know best." A few heads turned toward us. My hand tightened around my clutch. Evelyn squeezed my arm once. "Wait," she whispered. Then the room flickered. A low hum, then darkness. A storm had been rolling in over the harbor all evening. Thick clouds, wind gusts that rattled the hotel's old windows. I'd ignored it. Now, lightning cracked somewhere close and the ballroom lights went out. A collective gasp rose. Emergency lights snapped on dimly, bathing everything in gray-blue. People murmured, phones lighting up like fireflies. The event coordinator rushed toward the stage. Grant's voice rose, still polite, but strained. "It's fine," he called. "Everyone stay calm." The coordinator spoke into a radio, frantic. Evelyn's eyes sharpened. "There's our location twist," she murmured, almost to herself. "What?" I whispered. "The Marlowe's backup generator is unreliable," she said. "They'll move the program." Sure enough, within minutes, staff began guiding people through side doors into a smaller conference hall lit by a stable generator. The crowd funneled, confused and chatty, the perfect chaos to disrupt Grant's control of the stage. As we moved, I felt someone brush my elbow. A woman in a staff uniform slipped a folded card into my hand and kept walking without looking at me. My breath caught. I opened it under the cover of dim light. "Ask Evelyn about the notary. Check her commission." H. Harper, the escrow officer. My pulse quickened. I leaned toward Evelyn. "Harper just warned us," I whispered, showing her the card. Evelyn's eyes narrowed, then she nodded slightly. "Good," she said. "She's scared. That means there's more." In the smaller hall, Grant tried to regain control. He stepped up again, smiling too hard. "Just a little Charleston weather," he joked. Laughter, relieved. He raised the mic. "As I was saying," Evelyn stepped forward. Grant blinked, thrown. "Evelyn," he said, tone falsely warm, "this isn't—" Evelyn didn't ask permission. She didn't need to. Her presence carried authority because she wasn't performing. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said calmly into the mic, "I'm sorry to interrupt. I serve as counsel to the Harbor Lights Foundation, and I also serve as successor trustee for Marisol Cruz's irrevocable trust." A hush settled, the kind that happens when people sense something real is cutting through the polite fog. Grant's face tightened. Evelyn continued. "There have been statements tonight implying Marisol's property affairs are being handled with dignity," she said. "I want to be clear. A court has issued an order temporarily restraining any transfer of Ms. Cruz's home due to concerns about fraud. A ripple of murmurs. Grant's smile froze. Evelyn's voice stayed even. "We will not litigate details at a charity gala," she said, "but we will not allow misinformation. Ms. Cruz is here. She is safe, and she is not a prop." My mother's eyes filled with tears. Grant stepped forward, voice sharp. "You can't do this," he hissed, forgetting the mic was still live. Evelyn turned slightly, looking at him with something close to pity. "Grant," she said quietly, still audible, "you did this to yourself." He lunged for the mic, but the coordinator stepped between them, panicked. The room buzzed, phones lifted, people whispered. Grant tried to laugh it off, but the laugh cracked. And then, because life loves timing, the hotel's audio system glitched and replayed a snippet of the mic feed from moments earlier. Grant's hissed line, amplified, "You can't do this." It sounded like a confession. The humiliation wasn't cruelty. It was consequence. I walked to my mother and sat beside her, taking her hand. "I'm here," I whispered. She squeezed back like she'd been holding her breath for days. We left before the auction resumed. Outside, rain hit the pavement in hard sheets, the storm finally breaking open. In the car, Evelyn was quiet. Then she said, "Now we go to court and make it official." The hearing came faster than I expected. Charleston County Probate Court wasn't grand. It was functional. Wood benches, muted carpet, the quiet tension of people whose family issues had become public record. Grant arrived in a tailored suit, looking every inch the dutiful son. His attorney carried a thick binder like intimidation could be measured in inches. My mother arrived with me and Evelyn. She wore a soft cardigan and held a small folder of her own, documents she'd insisted on carrying because she wanted to feel like herself again. The judge entered. We stood. We sat. The clerk called the case. Grant's attorney began with smooth language, concerns about my mother's capacity, allegations of interference, the need for Grant to manage affairs. Then Evelyn stood. She didn't speak like a performer. She spoke like someone placing truth into the record. She submitted the LLC filings showing Grant as sole owner. She submitted the title company email logs, showing the verification code sent to a number not belonging to my mother. She submitted Harborview's visitor logs showing Grant's repeated visits during the signing period. Then she requested permission to submit additional evidence under seal due to privacy concerns. The judge nodded. Evelyn handed the clerk a drive. My stomach tightened. The USB. Grant's attorney frowned. "What is this?" he demanded. Evelyn's gaze didn't waver. "Audio recordings," she said, along with metadata establishing their creation time and source device. Grant shifted in his chair, a tiny movement that betrayed him. The judge looked over her glasses. "Mr. Cruz," she said, "do you dispute the authenticity of these recordings?" Grant's attorney stood quickly. "We object," he said. "Foundation, chain of custody." Evelyn nodded. "Which is why," she said calmly, "we also subpoenaed the notary's journal and commission record, and the title company's escrow file, including internal notes." She turned to the judge. "The notary's commission number on the deed," she said, "belongs to a notary whose commission expired 8 months before the document was purportedly notarized." Grant's attorney's face tightened. "And," Evelyn added, "the notary's journal contains no entry for that date, that property, or Marisol Cruz." The judge's eyes narrowed. The courtroom went silent. Grant's confident posture faltered. Evelyn continued, voice steady. "We are not asking the court to punish Mr. Cruz emotionally," she said. "We are asking the court to protect Ms. Cruz legally." She gestured toward my mother. "My client created an irrevocable trust precisely to prevent this kind of coercion," she said. "It includes a canary clause. Mr. Cruz's actions, creating a self-owned LLC, attempting to transfer trust property, misrepresenting counsel approval, and presenting a defective notarization, trigger forfeiture." Grant's attorney began to speak, but the judge lifted a hand. "Ms. Cruz," the judge said, turning to my mother, Do you wish to transfer your home out of your trust to your son's company? My mother's voice trembled, but it was clear. No, she said. I did not understand what I signed. I thought I was signing paperwork for my doctor. Grant's face flushed. The judge turned back to him. Mr. Cruz, she said, you attempted to move a protected asset out of a trust without proper authority. Do you understand the seriousness of that? Grant opened his mouth. His attorney touched his arm sharply, warning him not to speak. Grant swallowed. The judge looked at Evelyn. I am granting a permanent injunction preventing any transfer of the Rutledge Avenue property out of the trust without trustee authorization, she said. I am also ordering dissolution of the LLC insofar as it relates to any claim over this property, and I am issuing an order restricting Mr. Cruz from presenting any power of attorney documents for Ms. Cruz without independent counsel present. Grant's shoulders sagged. And, the judge added, given the evidence of attempted fraud, I am authorizing a referral to the appropriate state authorities for investigation. Additionally, I am granting an asset freeze on any proceeds or accounts connected to the attempted transfer pending further review. Grant's attorney's face went pale. Grant looked like the floor had shifted under him. It wasn't dramatic in the way movies promise. It was worse for him. It was official. Outside the courtroom, Grant caught my arm, lightly, like he thought he still had permission. Elena, he said, voice strained, you didn't have to do all this. I looked at his hand on my sleeve. Then I looked at his face, the entitlement, the shock, the sudden realization that charm doesn't work on documents. I removed his hand gently. I didn't, I said quietly. You did. My mother stepped forward then, surprising me. Her voice was soft but firm. Grant, she said, you don't get to call this love. Grant's eyes flashed with anger and shame. You're letting her turn you against me, he snapped, looking at my mother. My mother's mouth tightened. I'm not against you, she said. I'm finally for myself. Grant's face crumpled for a second, and I saw the little boy inside him who'd learned that taking was easier than asking. Then it hardened again. He stormed off, his attorney following, murmuring frantic legal advice. Evelyn exhaled beside me. That's the order, she said. Now we enforce it. In the weeks that followed, the consequences rolled out in the way consequences do, quietly, inevitably. The LLC filings were amended. The property remained in the trust. Harborview changed its internal policies after Evelyn's letter. The title company fired the escrow officer's supervisor who'd ignored red flags. Harper, the escrow officer, sent Evelyn a formal statement and affidavit describing pressure from Grant to move quickly and not ask questions. Evelyn explained it to me in a coffee shop one afternoon, sliding the affidavit across the table. This is why systems matter, she said. People inside them can be scared, but paper gives them courage. What about the recordings? I asked. Evelyn sipped her coffee. Harper left a recorder in the file room after Grant cornered her, she said. She didn't trust what he was doing, and she wanted insurance. I stared at her. She did that for us? I asked. Evelyn shrugged. Maybe she did it for herself, she said. Sometimes that's enough. It was a small kindness, anonymous until it wasn't. Grant tried to salvage his image, of course. He told extended family he was misunderstood. He blamed me. He hinted that Evelyn was power-hungry. But the court order was public record. And in Charleston's polished circles, one thing matters more than charm: reputation backed by documents. The foundation quietly removed Grant from its volunteer roster. People stopped returning his calls. A bank declined his loan application when the asset freeze showed up in background checks. He didn't crumble because we destroyed him. He crumbled because he'd built his life on leverage, and the system finally took it away. My mother moved back into her house the day the injunction became final. We opened the windows, aired out the stale tension that had settled into the walls. She stood on the porch and touched her basil plant, now revived with Mrs. Davenport's care. I thought I was losing this, she whispered. I stood beside her. You didn't, I said. She looked at me. I'm sorry, she said, for believing him when he said you didn't want me. My throat tightened. Ma, I said, he used your fear. That's not your fault. She nodded, then said something that made me blink. I want to update the trust, she said. Evelyn had mentioned it was possible, even with an irrevocable trust, through limited mechanisms and court approval if it served the trust's purpose. It required careful legal work, but it could be done. What do you want to change? I asked. My mother's gaze steadied. I want you as co-trustee with Evelyn, she said. Not because you're responsible, because you're honest. I swallowed hard. Okay, I said. That was the closure I didn't know I needed. Not praise, not apology, but trust as an action. 1 year later, the house on Rutledge Avenue looks the way it always should have. Lived in, safe, not waiting to be taken. My mother's health isn't perfect, but it's stable. She has a caregiver 3 mornings a week, paid for by the trust the way she intended, and she still insists on balancing her own checkbook because it makes her feel like herself. I'm doing better too. I left the construction firm and started a small consulting practice helping local small businesses tighten contracts and protect themselves from exactly this kind of family help. It's not flashy, it's real, and I don't apologize for it. Grant lives across town now in a rented condo he can barely afford. He's not in jail. No one hunted him down. The state investigation is ongoing, and his name appears on records he can't charm his way out of. He's learning, slowly, that adulthood isn't a performance. It's accountability. Sometimes people ask if we reconciled. The answer is complicated and quiet. My mother speaks to him occasionally, in controlled, supervised ways, because she's a mother and because boundaries can coexist with love. I do not. Not because I hate him. Because I finally respect myself enough to stop negotiating with someone who only understands taking. If you've ever been the dependable one, the one who keeps the peace while someone else rewrites the rules, remember this. Peace that costs your dignity isn't peace. It's surrender. And if you're watching this and thinking, I'm in something like that right now, tell me in the comments. What's the first boundary you wish you'd set sooner? And if you want more stories where justice comes from evidence, process, and earned power, not cruelty, hit subscribe.